Welcome to another episode of Couples Academy Live. Today we're continuing in our series where we're rethinking divorce, and we're going to be talking about the divorce effect. Join us right now.
Dear Mom and Dad, I know that you are hurting. I'm hurting too. I feel and feed off your tension, fear, and shock. Although I am young and cannot express verbally what is happening in our lives, I am still feeling the impact. My heart is broken every time I have to give up a parent. My sense of security is lost. Please don't assume that I am resilient. Please don't assume that my life will be exactly as it was, and that I will continue to feel the same love from both of you. I am a human being just like you. My needs are just like yours. I need love, attention, nurturing, stability, consistency, affection, understanding, patience, and mostly to be wanted. When you fight over me or put me in the middle of your argument, you are sending me the message that winning with each other is more important than my life. I am learning from you that it is better to be right than to be loved. You are teaching me that I came from a person who is unlovable and wrong, and that I am somehow wrong too. When you confide your hurt in my heart, you are storing up adult pain and robbing me of my childhood. You are taking away my belief that love is unconditional and replacing it with a message that tells me to become hard and not to love because I will get hurt and not be able to recover. You may not understand this today, and I am so small that you are not thinking about my future, but you are putting me at a greater risk of getting a divorce myself. At times, you are risking my safety to fill a void in your heart. My safety is your job. Without you and your protection, I am unshielded from the world. This will manifest in irrational fears for me, because I will stay in a state of fight or flight for most of my life. Someday, this initial shock will wear off. But how you choose to parent me through this crisis will never wear off. I will either feel your sense of selflessness, support, protection, or I will have a scar on my heart with a message that reads, "Good things happen to good people. I must be bad." Thoughtfully, the child of divorce.
Wow, powerful video.
Super powerful.
And today we're talking about the divorce effect, the effect that divorce can potentially have on people who are considering it. And that's why we're in this series on rethinking divorce. Now, you being a child of divorce, could you resonate with that and talk about your experiences?
Yeah, I had to get quiet and really take that in because, it's almost like everything is hindsight for me now going through it. As a child. And I mean, make no mistake, when divorce is necessary, it's absolutely necessary. And I am a product of a divorce that was necessary, right? But the ramifications of that, the effects of that, I always remember feeling like, despite the crazy that was going on in the home, I remember always feeling like the chosen one, the daddy's girl, because I was the only girl, right? Mm. And after divorce, when my parents went their two separate ways, he was ghost, right? He was nowhere to be found. He didn't check in. He didn't call. And that really did scar me because I remember thinking when I would be at school and seeing, other girls with their fathers, I would think, where's my father? It brings on a sense of a lack of worthiness and, what was wrong with me? Why couldn't he stick around for me? I thought he loved me. I guess he didn't. And I agree with that kid who he was just basically saying it makes you have this toughness, right? You basically have a realness now. Like, you know what? Things don't always work out. They work out for some people, but they didn't work out for you. So that's a lot of stuff that we end up having to undo as we go through life. You think about when we talk about the baggage that we bring into our relationships, a lot of that stuff that we're bringing in comes from way back then, could even result from the marriage, from the divorce that you were a participant in. So it's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about what we do. Hassani came from a 2-parent home. I came from a broken home. So his vision and purpose is different, steeped in what he's come from. Mine is steeped in the prevention, not wanting other folks to have to go through what I went through if they don't have to.
Yeah, it's interesting because being married to you, I would hear stories about what life was like growing up in a household where you didn't have both parents. And when you look at the statistics, I think a lot of people have this idea, well, you know what? They're old enough, they'll get it, they'll move on, they'll get over it. But it can leave an indelible mark on your child, emotionally, psychologically, mentally. It impacts how they show up in school. It impacts their relationships with one another. We often talk about how you are leaving a legacy for your children. And so your marriage is it's basically on Front Street, right? They have a front row seat to your life, and they mirror oftentimes what is being modeled. And so when they don't see a relationship that works, it teaches them. In fact, there's a higher possibility of divorce amongst children of divorce than those who grew up in a household where the parents were still together.
Wow.
So there's a lot of impact that it has. And so children are devastated oftentimes, not to say that they can't get over it. There's a lot of healthy people who are in great relationships today who are products of divorce, but statistically, we know that the
and I think it's just a great point to make that, when you get a divorce, it's not just affecting you. I think I've heard a lot of parents say, I'm going to stay married for the kids. And we talked about that a little bit yesterday, that you don't always stay married for the kids if you're in a toxic situation. But when you're in a situation where you have differences that can be worked out, staying together for the kids makes a lot of sense because they are hugely impacted. They didn't ask to be here. You brought them into this world, and now it's your responsibility to rear them up. And so if you can avoid divorce, if you can work out differences, then by all means do that, because you're going to affect somebody's future as a result of your actions.
Absolutely. JD actually asked the question, does it affect babies? I would say at some point it does, because if a baby grows up not knowing who their parent is, depending upon the situation, we know couples where once the divorce happens, you never see that man again. He's no longer in the life of those children. So it can cause an identity crisis where people are trying to search for significance through their father, because even though they weren't raised by that particular person, a lot of their identity is shaped and formed by who that biological father or biological mother is. So yes, it affects, I would imagine, children of all ages, whether they're babies and they're unconscious, whether they're adolescent, teenager, even adult children. Even when you are an adult and you're married with your own family and your parents divorce, it does have an impact. All right. So those are some of the things to consider. Now, not just does it affect the children, but it definitely affects those within the relationship. And so there are a number of consequences associated with it. And the more you take heed to the possibility of what can happen, the more I think it may prevent divorce from taking place. For instance, we know that divorce oftentimes leads to unhappiness. Adults really have been polled as being less happy because of a divorce. Even we see depression. Now, interestingly enough, when it comes to depression, women more so than men after divorce deal with depression. And that level of depression could impact their well-being, their self-esteem. They have lower psychological well-being overall. So it does leave an emotional toll on you. Yeah. And so, listen, guys, divorce is not a pathway to happiness. I think a lot of people who are considering divorce are in a space where they're saying, I'm just not happy and I want to be happy. But it is no reliable path to personal happiness. In fact, you're holding on to that pain, and that pain is now compacted and compounded with so many other issues.
I think we think it's going to help us avoid unhappiness because we're unhappy at the moment, right? So we're taking situational ethics and putting it in play here. If I am unhappy with you because you're not meeting my needs, or you think I'm not meeting yours, I'm unhappy. But no one's thinking about the other side of it, where you are alone, where you are frustrated, where it does affect every other aspect of your life. And I know a lot of women who have made that choice, whether they had to or didn't. That's the other thing. Whether it was necessary or unnecessary, still on the other side of that, there is this, almost like a mourning. There's a mourning about what was lost. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, that in many cases, still, you're still going to have to deal with that, because if the issues reside within us, which a lot of times they do, it was really what helped us, is that we realized issues were residing with us, and we didn't know that because we were so busy looking out, criticizing, pointing out, making sure you know what you're not doing right, that we weren't even looking at ourselves in the picture, right? What am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me? Did I somehow forget that I didn't come into this world a perfect being? So when we draw a circle around our feet and start to look at how am I showing up, and we fix how we show up, it changes everything. But when we're like, I gotta escape every situation, that's what you see happening, especially with this increased divorce rate. You have people escaping because they never saw anybody have any stick-to-itiveness their whole life. And that's kind of what that boy is expressing. He didn't see his parents fight for the marriage or fight to be able to take care of him and be his parents. They were fighting to be right?
Absolutely.
They were fighting to get away. They were fighting for probably parental rights, all the fighting, they're fighting about who gets to see who on what day, and all of this, these images and messages go into us.
And here's the deal. Oftentimes we race out of one relationship and race right into another relationship with the same issues. Different person, different name, different face, but oftentimes we're suffering from the same thing. We call these rerun or repeat relationships because we've made our spouse the problem. We've become oblivious to our own issues. And so the thing is, you can run from your partner, but you can't run from yourself. You bring you everywhere you go. And so that's why it's so important to self-reflect, to look inwardly, to figure out, what am I doing to contribute to the devastation of this situation? And can things change? Because not only will it impact me, it'll impact the spouse, it'll impact the children. And guess what? God is a part of that covenant as well. He's impacted every time a divorce takes place. It's interesting, going back to when we're talking about children, Stephen says, personally, I struggle with identity because my father was not in my life. So here's a man who I'm not sure if he didn't know his dad or his dad, maybe he knew him for a moment, but him not being in his life. Now he's a grown adult still dealing with identity issues because he didn't have the influence of both parents. And I keep saying the father because traditionally the children are with the mother. But there are many cases where you have fathers raising children and they don't have a relationship with the mother. And what we've seen is that if a child has an issue with the mother, that child may have issues with women in relationship. If a child has issues with the father, that child, when they become an adult, may have issues with men. So that opposite sex parent who's not in your life can impact how you show up in relationships. So these are things that we got to consider when we're rethinking divorce. Now, if we go on, we know that one of the other challenges or the effects of divorce is health problems. In fact, divorced individuals actually see doctors more, and they're more likely to suffer from serious illnesses, and they even have a lower life expectancy.
Wow. It makes me think about the book Healing is a Choice by Louise Hayes. And somebody better get that book if you're dealing with issues, chronic health issues and all that, because it talks about how your emotional pains actually translate into physical illness, right? So those are things like anger, resentment, brokenheartedness. Brokenheartedness is actually a real thing that you actually can feel physically in your body. And so you will see this when people have gone through a divorce, that their health will decline because of the brokenheartedness, because of holding on to resentment and having an unwillingness to forgive. The bitterness sets in and sickness follows.
Absolutely. One of the other impacts or effects of divorce is false intimacy. See, what happens is once you're no longer in a committed covenant relationship with your spouse, there is a need to still feel intimate, to be close, because we're wired to connect. And oftentimes we see people are racing into these relationships and they're engaging in sex and physical closeness, but it's not authentic love, and it is not genuine, and it could ultimately leave you feeling more empty and more rejected because you're looking for somebody to fill a void that marriage should have been filling all along.
Wow.
And so we see all types of people running through, become serial monogamous, just dating multiple people because they're lonely and they need companionship.
Yes, especially with women. Maybe it's both. I don't know, but I mean,
both.
because I know
Definitely
a lot of women
both.
personally that have done that. they're seeking love in all the wrong places. They're trying to find that worthiness that they wanted to have through their parenting, through their father, and they're finding it in multiple men. This is why I'm always saying, dads, compliment your daughters, pour into your daughters, let them know that they're valuable, so that when Johnny come lately comes along, they're not blown off their feet over something that they never heard before. So this is very, I could see how this plays out a lot.
Another consequence, Danielle, is substance abuse. Interestingly enough, when men divorce, there's a higher rate of men who actually become alcoholics and drink hard types of alcohol to deal with their emotions. A lot of times men don't really go through a process of healing and don't know how to process their emotions. So what we try to do is sedate them. I don't want to feel this pain. I don't want to feel this emotion. So we drink, we do drugs, we sedate ourselves, not wanting to feel the pain. And the pain goes away temporarily. But guess what? When the high comes down, when the crash is over, we're still stuck with those same emotions and we're still trapped in the pit of our pain. So you have to be able to deal with it. That's why divorce as a solution to feel better is actually not the answer. You actually feel worse in a whole lot of regards. I want to
just jump onto some of these comments here. Angel says, I don't believe in divorce yet. My parents got divorced when I was a teen, and I agree with the choice. However, I'm still affected by that as a 32-year-old. And that's what we're saying, that we can't control our parents, right? We can't control the home that we came from. And in my case, the divorce was very much necessary. I will say that unequivocally it was. But that didn't change the effects on my life. That didn't change the effects on my brother's lives. And so this is why we had to get into a counseling situation where we could work on our stuff. Like Hassani has his stuff, wherever it came from. But my stuff is my stuff, right? And I got to own that and work on that. I got to be able to look at that so that when I'm looking at Hassani, I'm not angry and looking at him through the lenses of anger that I have towards my father for abandonment. Because when that happens, now I start to skew everything that I see, right? Everything is skewed and everything is looked at as a disappointment, as a failure, as rejection. That's why we have to get into some strong counseling to correct what was broken a long time ago.
Absolutely. It's critically important. You tapped on this a little bit earlier, but this is one of the other effects of divorce. It's fading relationships with people in your community. Now, consider this. If we're married and we have couple friends, once we divorce, I've heard people say this, I can't get together with our couple friends because when I get together with them, it's a reminder of my marriage. It's a reminder of my failure. So we see that people kind of move away and leave that community, leave their community, they leave their friends. It also decreases their ability to even interact with their children, because depending upon the severity of the situation amongst the couple, see, at the end of the day, I may divorce you, but I still have to be in relationship with you because we have kids. Now, if I hate you, you hate me, we can't talk, we can't function, we can't operate. I'm going to do my best to get as far away from you as possible. And guess who suffer? The children suffer. Or maybe you're the type to say, you'll never see your children again. You'll never have a relationship with your children again. And then what you do, you will spew poison into the hearts and minds of our children and turn them against me because we're just not in a good place.
It makes me think of that video with that little girl whose daddy took her to get her hair braided. And they were, the mother and the father were obviously at odds completely. And she was furious that the little girl's daddy took her to get her hair braided. And literally she cut her baby girl's hair out in front of the father.
I remember that.
These are the crazy things that happen. This is what we're doing to our children and to each other. Because look at that. Like, you can't even speak to the person. You can't even actually have common sense. You cutting out your own baby girl's braids.
Isn't that crazy? Out of spite.
And that video went viral. I'm sure a lot of people saw that.
But then you have the flip side, right? You have the couples who have so much hatred and vitriol for each other.
Yeah.
But one of the other effects of divorce could be an emotional dependence on your partner, on your ex, that is. And so we've seen where, because we have children, because we have to make decisions together, because we have to share custody amongst the children, that keeps an emotional attachment. We see where people are in relationships with new people, but still are sexually and emotionally attached to a former spouse
Yes.
because of familiarity, because, listen, we still have things in common, we're still coming together. So there's a level of closeness in some regards that people still have. And so so my thing is like, if we have to be in a relationship anyway, why not work out the relationship within the confines of the marriage?
I'm going to read another comment. Heather says, my fiance moved out 3 months ago, and it left me with tons of abandonment issues that I had felt from when my father left when I was 4. After my father left, I was severely abused for years. So when this happened with my fiance, I practically begged him to stay. I carried on, I cried, I didn't know what to do, and now I feel like he doesn't respect me at all. That's unfortunate, Heather. And
Wow.
you know what? What happened was you went right back to your 4-year-old self. You know, you literally had a tantrum because you didn't know how else to handle it. And that's what happens. We get scarred and we get stuck right there. And that's a good reason, right, for you to find some counseling and just some support to heal that broken place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have another comment from Corliss that says people will move to another state or city to get away and never see their kids. This is very true.
Yes.
People will travel across the country to get away from a bad relationship. And as a result, the parent doesn't have access to those children. And here's the deal. At the end of the day, it takes two healthy individuals in a relationship to really help shape and mold those children into being who they want to be. It doesn't mean that if you were raised in a single parent household, you cannot be successful, you cannot be productive, you cannot be healthy. There's many people who are examples of that, one sitting to my right.
And many more.
And many more.
And this also isn't all, I mean, this is actually striking some chords here, right? Because some people are resonating with the connection between the divorce of their parents and what they go through now. And that's something definitely to acknowledge. But this is about the effects overall. Like, not only are you affecting generations that are following you, right, of your own children, but you're also affecting yourself in all these other emotional ways. And I don't want you guys to miss that as we're talking. I don't want this to turn into, it's all about what happened to me as a child. They're actually current, you got to live through it, stuff that you have to deal with when you get a divorce.
And see, this is why God hates divorce. You know, we find in Malachi 2:16, it says, "For I hate divorce, says the Lord, the God of Israel. To divorce your wife is to overwhelm her with cruelty, says the Lord of heaven's army. So guard your heart and do not be unfaithful to your wife." Now, it's speaking to husbands, but we see the principle here that can apply to both husbands and wives. We just talked about the other day how the divorce rate is initiated by women by 70-something%. And so if you're divorcing your partner, there's a level of cruelty that goes along with that because of all of the negative implications associated with it to you, to your children. It even impacts your finances. We know that financially, divorce can be very expensive. I think the national average is, depending upon what state you're in, an income could be anywhere between $30,000 and $50,000. And then on top of that, you have alimony. On top of that, you have child support. And then all the other expenses of relocating and buying new this and setting up new that. It has a tremendous effect, even those on their job. You know, there's something called absenteeism. Like, for instance, if I'm going through, I can be physically absent for a while because I can't think straight, I can't function, I can't be productive. But there's something else called presenteeism. Presenteeism is when you show up to work, but you can't function in your job. And so that is actually costing corporations even more money. Presenteeism, because not only are you not being productive, you're using up resources and you're using up hours.
Wow.
And it's having an impact on corporations. So divorce doesn't just affect those within the household.
They need to call us into those corporations and have us speak to their team. That's what they need to do.
Isn't that a great idea?
I mean, yeah.
But there's an impact that it has on society that cannot be erased. And so, guys, we're talking here about rethinking divorce. You're watching the Couples Academy show. Let's show you a couple who was considering divorce, turned things around because they decided to do something different.
Hello, my name is Jason. I'm from Ohio.
I'm Erica.
We've been together for 22 years. High school sweethearts. Recently, we found some trouble in our relationship. We decided that we were going to try to self-counsel. We went away to a cabin for a nice weekend. And we did our best. We've always been real good at working together. We did our best at working through our problems. We got online did a little bit of researching on YouTube, and God led us right to Hassani's videos. And we very quickly were intrigued. We
couldn't quit watching them. We loved everything that he had to say.
And immediately we found ourselves wanting to do some of the exercises in the videos. We tried them on our own. We found some relief in doing those exercises. But it wasn't until we realized that Hassani wasn't just a video online, and that we could actually click on a website and get a phone number and make a phone call. And in just a few minutes, we started looking a little bit more at the intensives specifically and what they meant, what they involved.
Because we were desperate for help immediately.
And we wanted to be aggressive with it. We didn't want to drag this out. We knew we loved each other more than anything. We wanted to address this stuff, and I really feel like it wasn't even a decision to make. We were just supposed to be here. I know that when we actually got here, and we booked it right away with Hassani, he got us in what was it, like 3 weeks? Not even 3 weeks?
It was 2 weeks.
He got us in right away. He made us feel more than welcome. He has a beautiful place here, and it's very private and very intimate. It has been perfect. But I want to say that the experience that we tried on our own of doing some of the exercises, it just was incomplete compared to what
With
happened
all of the other
here.
stuff in between. Yeah, it's definitely we had missing pieces to our puzzle when we were doing those activities. And when you come here, you get the entire puzzle. It didn't work. We were doing things out of order and without fully digging deep into what the underlying issues in our relationship actually were. And he helped all of those things to surface so that we could finally come together and understand each other better.
I love this woman more than anything in the world. And I am thankful to God and to one other man on this earth for giving me another honest shot at this woman's love. And that's Hassani Pettiford. Thank you, Hassani.
All right, guys. Well, hopefully
Powerful.
you got something from that testimonial about the power of transformation when you're going through. There's hope. A lot of you feel hopeless, you feel helpless, but hopefully all of these testimonials by these other couples will let you know that there's a possibility that things can turn around.
Yeah.
And that's why we're in this divorce series. Hopefully you got something out of today's session. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the divorce solution. So if you're vacillating or there's a lot of ambiguity in terms of what you should do and what direction you should go, we're going to be here tomorrow talking about what is the solution to the divorce. Now, we're talking to people who are still married, who haven't divorced yet, who are stuck in a place of indecision.
Right.
And so we want you to tune in. We want you to continue to share. We want you to subscribe to our channel and be present, because we're here to give you information that will make an impact on your life and on your marriage. So guys, we love you, and we will see you in the morning.
Can't bring us down, can't nothing bring us down.